It is Thursday, February 11th. Joe Delron Ujets. Welcome to the Kahnawake COVID-19 Task Force Update. It is our 176th episode. And today we have a busy show, so we'll get right down to it. On Monday, Mohawk Council of Kahnawake passed an MCED, as they call it, that will be helping out the businesses. And here to explain some of that is the executive director of Tewatohnhi'saktha, our old friend Neil McComber. Neil?
Kahnawake, Joe. As Joe mentioned, the announcement was made on Monday from Tewatohnhi'saktha about this new, what's called the Indigenous Community Business Fund Initiative. It's $1 million to be spent by March 31st. So this is over and above the KERM and the Business Interruption Fund. At this point, it's basically like a use it or lose it. So we have until March 31st. Whatever money we don't spend, we may have to give back to the government. Let's not let that happen, business people. We need applications. So the applications. All the information will be rolled out on Monday. We're just here to introduce it. On Monday, you'll get more information on how to apply, etc. That's February 15th, so please look out for that. You'll have a month to apply, up until March 15th. How this all came about, if you remember back in the fall, Planet Consulting did a survey, COVID-19 Business Impact Survey. 300 businesses took part, so now I'll go out to all the businesses. If you want to see that survey, go on dewa.ca. There's a little orange button to see the survey. I'm not going to go through the survey results today. I'll mention maybe one or two. The results of that survey were given to a few economists who reviewed it, analyzed it, and came up with 10 recommendations. Then the economists worked with Tewatohnhi'saktha's business services and came up with this $1 million program. There's 5 categories that were put into the program: passive measures, business structural measures, immediate, active, technical assistance, and growth opportunities. I'm not going to go through those today. Again, you can find out more information on those on Monday. The key is that there's different areas of where the funding goes. So one of the key findings in the survey was that 58% of businesses noticed a reduction in sales. That's 175 businesses who noticed that reduction. Out of those 175, 100 of them noticed that over 50% of their sales were lost due to COVID-19. So there was definitely a need for this injection of $1 million by March 31st. Another thing that came out of the survey was that the business owners mentioned that over 40% of them didn't know about existing programs: the Business Interruption Fund, fit-up costs for plexiglass, and the Emergency Loan Program, just to name a few. So, I mean, actually when those were first revealed in early January, promotions began. However, there's going to be promotions in the local papers, radio, you name it, social media. But beyond that, we've also rehired Planet Consulting to help businesses through the application process. Not only will they help, but they'll also be calling businesses. Now, we still want the businesses to look out for the information and apply themselves, but in case they're not, they will be called. Another thing that came out of the survey and the recommendations was to make a flexible program. So the economist said the program needs to be really flexible. So Tewatohnhi'saktha has done that. As I mentioned, there's 5 categories. There's only one application. The application is 4 pages long. I'm not going to get into it today. Maris Jacobs will actually be back on Tuesday to go through the application process. I'll let her handle that on Tuesday. You can find out more on Monday, like I said. And finally, so I just wanted to alert everybody of this. We really need the businesses to apply. We want to break that $1 million mark and have some tough decisions, if that makes any sense. Finally, I just want to thank the MCK for the decision to allocate the dollars. The Tewatohnhi'saktha staff that worked on this, Luc Vallée and Stéphane Dupuis, our consultants, as well as Planet. And finally, I'd just like to say congratulations to Carly Marquis, being appointed as the new executive director of the Mohawk Council. We look forward to working together, and I'd just like to leave you with the saying, shop safely by shopping locally. Now.
And thank you very much, Neil. Joining us now is a young lady who is very busy. Sometimes she's on the program for Kahnawake again Health Community Services. However, this time she's here in her role as a paramedic with the Kahnawake Fire Brigade. Hopefully that wasn't that wasn't an alarm to run off to a fire. Let's welcome Ashlan Phillips. Once again, she is with the Fire Brigade and she is a paramedic. Ashlan?
All right. Now, Joe. So, good afternoon, Kahnawake. So, as mentioned before, this is my third time appearing on Kahnawake 911, but today I'm here in a different capacity. I'm here as a paramedic for the Kahnawake Fire Brigade, and I'm here to speak about my experience receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. So, several weeks ago, on the 21st of January, I received my first vaccine. I received the Pfizer vaccine at the vaccination clinic in Kahnawake. Like I said, I received the Pfizer vaccine, and I had no reaction, no side effects. But, I mean, the only minor things that I did experience, like any other injection or vaccine, I received some tenderness at the injection site for about a day or so. But other than that, I had no side effects, which was great. But prior to getting the vaccine, I was a little bit concerned because I do have a pretty severe peanut allergy. I carry an EpiPen with me all the time because I do have the potential to have an anaphylactic reaction. Luckily for me, I've never had to use it, but I do have it with me all the time. And just knowing that I have this potential to get an anaphylactic reaction, which can be very serious, very life-threatening. I was a little bit weary when the thought of getting a new vaccine was offered to me. But as a frontline worker, I kind of thought of it as my duty and my responsibility to get vaccinated in order to help protect those that I treat and serve within the community, both for the Fire Brigade and for KSCS. So prior to being even offered the vaccine, I did my research. I looked up the side effects, ingredients, stuff like that, just to make myself more aware. And I highly encourage everyone within the community to do the same. But always be cautious of the websites that you're using. Make sure they're reputable websites, which coincidentally, newly launched website, Kahnawake911.com/vaccine will help give you answers to those frequently asked questions. And for me, that wasn't around quite yet, but I did look up did my research through Quebec.ca website, and that was very helpful to me. I was fortunate enough to be offered the vaccine, and again, it was offered. It isn't mandatory in either of my places of employment. However, like everybody else, it's highly recommended. We're not, no one's being forced to receive it, but the quicker everybody's vaccinated, the quicker we can get back to our normal. And I understand everybody is different. We have different bodies, different reactions to everything. But this was my personal experience. I do have allergies, but I was fortunate enough to not have a reaction or any side effects to the vaccine. And I hope that can alleviate some stress surrounding the COVID-19 vaccine for somebody else in the community. And just to finish off, as a reminder on behalf of the Kahnawake Fire Brigade, we just wanted to reassure the community that if you are feeling unwell or have a need for an ambulance, do not hesitate. Don't wait until it's too late. There's countless procedures and different safety guidelines in place at all the hospitals in and around Montreal. And those are in place to help control the spread of COVID-19. So we want to make sure that our community stays safe. So now I'll go.
Thank you so much, Ashlan. And as she mentioned, Kahnawake911.com/vaccines. It has FAQs, news, and even some testimonials from people who have received the vaccine. And we'll be adding to those as the days go on. Joining us now from the Cattery Memorial Hospital Center is Don Montour-Lazare. Don.
Good afternoon. All right, so I'm coming here to speak about the change in the symptom log that most of the organizations have symptom logs for the workers to fill in before they go into work. There's been some changes at the public health level in Quebec. They have added on some things to the Group A symptoms. Group A symptoms only need to have one of them for you to go get tested. So this would include fever and chills, cough, difficulty breathing, loss of taste or smell, and now they've added on having a sore throat or runny nose or congestion. Now, so if you have any one of those symptoms, then it's important that you call at the Cattery Memorial Hospital to get a COVID test. And if you have any of the other symptoms as well too, you would have to call as well too, and they will evaluate whether or not you need to get a test, because you would need 2 of the other symptoms, which would include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, intense fatigue for no obvious reason that you can think of, significant loss of appetite, generalized muscle pain or unusual stiffness not related to any physical exertion, unusual headaches, and they've added on stomach aches as well now. So, sorry, excuse me. So if you have 2 of the other symptoms, you would call as well to make an appointment to see if you need a test. So you call hospital at 450-638-3930, extension 2275 or 2296. The other thing I wanted to talk about, Lisa spoke about this morning on the radio. It's about isolation when you've been in contact with somebody who's tested positive for COVID. We make calls to our cases to find out who's been in close contact. So everyone in the house and anybody else, they may have spent at least 15 minutes together. And that's 15 minutes cumulative. It's not 15 minutes in one shot. So 5 minutes here, 2 minutes here, it all adds up at the end of the day. If it's 15 minutes, that puts you more at risk. But we evaluate all these things with our cases and with the contacts. So we call each of them, and sometimes we call other people as well that might be around them and get more information, because sometimes people forget things or we find out more information because people don't realize how much time they actually spent with someone. So based on that, we put somebody in isolation for 14 days. So sometimes if we have a case, we might get one answer for one person. They might be isolated for till, let's say, like if I was going to do it from today, they would be until the 25th. But let's say somebody hadn't been in with that person for at least 4 days and it was in that contagious period, then we would put them in isolation based on when their last contact was with that person that tested positive. So we take all these things into consideration. Now, the problem right now that we've had is that when people go get tested, they get a call back from the lab to let them know what the result is, but the nurse that calls them back sometimes will ask them questions and not have the full story that we have had, because we've, like I said, it's a lot through several interviews with cases and contacts that we get the full story. And so they may be doing things that they think are in the best interest of the patients, but remember that we're getting the full picture. And we're not alone in that situation. When we've spoken to public health at the Montour-Lazare, they also have the same problem with the labs. So it's not an indication that we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. It's actually we're actually more proactive in finding things. In lines of the recent outbreak with Step by Step, we've been working very closely with the Montour-Lazare to make sure that we have followed all the guidelines that we need to follow to make sure that we keep the students and teachers safe. And they've commended us on being more proactive in getting everyone safe and getting them in isolation and making sure they get tested. So we know that we're on the right track, and we know that we're very accountable to you, and we want to make sure that we do the best for our community. And so we hope that we continue to have your trust and know that that we have your best interests at heart. Now I'll go.
Thank you so much, Don. Always nice to have you on the program. Our next and final guest on the program today is the former council chief who had to talk about border crossing on occasion. Well, even though he's not a council chief anymore in his role as the public safety commissioner and, of course, head of the task force, Lloyd Phillips, still dealing with border crossing. He'll talk about that and a couple of other things here on the program. Lloyd?
Thank you, Joe, for that unique introduction. First of all, again, just to recap quickly, thank you very much, Neil, Executive Director from Tewatohnhi'saktha. Again, introducing another level of support for the business community due to the impacts of COVID-19. Like you said, over and above the business interruption fund, loan process, and the KERM fund that's available. This is another level to show the support from the community to the businesses in Kahnawake, because unfortunately at times, and as we've seen, and there still exist as we speak today, measures in place, directives in place that limit the ability for businesses, and this is another measure to help people at least bridge that gap until we do return back to a state of more normalcy. So that's good to hear that is taking place. As well, again, in combination, talking about the vaccine, it's good to hear some firsthand testimonials regarding the vaccine, because we know there's a lot of information about there, and some people are raising the concerns about vaccines. But certainly, we want to reassure people that we wouldn't be standing here in front of you, whether that be Ashlan, whether that be Don or myself or anybody else for that matter, talking about the vaccine and promoting the vaccine if we had any doubt that it was a safe vaccine for our community. And again, the vaccine rolled out in our community is the end. That is the solution. That will allow us again to return to our normal lives as quickly as possible. And the symptom log that was recently changed, again, it's updated information based on the latest scientific information available, trying to be proactive with the community. Don ran through those as well. But that documentation, that new symptom checker is going to be has been given to all the community organizations, and they will be implementing that very, very shortly, and as well as all the businesses will be delivered copies of the new procedures, and all their employees will be required to fill that out on a daily basis, and also have somebody within the organization or the business be responsible for taking a look at those forms on a regular basis to make sure that if somebody does identify that the possibility of having COVID-19, that they are sent home immediately and then asked to call public health. Again, these are all additional measures that we want to make sure we keep in place so that we minimize the spread, and taking these measures help us move again closer and closer to a new reality, or back to a more normal state. Also, we had several requests and a few discussions recently regarding some recreational activities that a lot of youth been asking for, families been asking to have more access to recreational activities. So I just want to reassure the community that that is something that is being looked at. There was several discussions that we had over the past few days. There will be some discussion further. It will be discussed next Wednesday at the task force meeting on seeing what areas we can possibly make some modifications. Standing here today, I can't make any promises to you what will or will not change, but it is something that is being very seriously considered, because as we know, people having recreational activities, is also good for the mental health of people, helps people have have that more sense of normalcy when you're doing some outdoor activities. So that is something that we are going to be looking at very closely over the next little while. But as I mentioned on the radio this morning, we took a much different approach than what Quebec did, because if you look at the way Quebec has rolled out some new measures, they do not allow household visitation. But they do allow some outdoor activities with a maximum of 4 people. We decided, based on our own community and based on our own needs, that the household visitation would have takes some more of a priority for our community, so people can have a more meaningful visitation with their friends or family, and have again that more that better connection, and hold off a little longer on the outdoor recreational activities. So we took a different approach, and we didn't want to change everything at once, because we have to have time to assess the impacts of what has been decided, and if there's a need to make modifications, we needed at least a 2-week time frame to be able to really assess that. But again, like I said, we will be readdressing that very shortly, for the community. And on a final note, as Joe mentioned in my introduction, certainly border issues have been an ongoing concern in the community since basically the border closed in last April. A lot of our people have close ties to the U.S., primarily iron workers who want to travel on a regular basis to and from their place of employment. A lot of people have banking and post office boxes and stuff, in New York State. So it's been a challenge, to say the least, to be able to balance off the need to take care of employment issues and personal issues, but again, the restrictions at the border have always had a problem. The task force has taken the position that we do support the measures in place by Canada, mainly being the Quarantine Act, because it is a measure in order to minimize the spread of the virus. At one point in time, especially going back several months ago, New York State was the epicenter of the United States. Things have gotten much better since then, but we did support the fact that need for that Quarantine Act, and we still do. But moving forward and looking at the next steps, we understand it's causing some problems in the community, and Canada is in the process of making some modifications. Dwayne Zachary, the Chief Peacekeeper, has been in discussions with the Canadian Border Services and has been keeping up to date on what's going to be taking place. We're going to be receiving more information probably tomorrow afternoon on what those changes will be and how they'll impact our community. So he'll be here on Tuesday to update the community on the latest measures that are in place at the border. But again, as another item, just so community knows that it is being addressed, it is being looked at, the overall impact of the border crossing on iron workers and on the community and such, balancing off with COVID restrictions, that will be another area for discussion at the task force come next Wednesday, based on all the information that will be gathered over the next day. And again, Dwayne will be here to give update on that on Tuesday. And then shortly after, on Wednesday, we'll have a discussion with the task force, and we'll provide any additional information to the community afterwards. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Joe, and thank you very much, and we'll talk soon, and Onigawahi.
All right, thank you very much, Lloyd. We're going to end off the program today in a few moments. We promised on on Tuesday's program, we were hoping to present a video on beadworking in Kahnawake. We will do that in a few minutes, but before we do that, just to touch up on something we talked about earlier, the website is now updated for vaccines at www.kahnawake911.com. There is information there on everything you need to know about vaccines, FAQs, frequently asked questions, of course, news and testimonials. So just go there, and from here on in, that will be your go-to when it comes to vaccines. So that'll do it for this program. We'd like to thank our guests, Ashlan Phillips, Neil McComber, Don Montour, and of course Lloyd Phillips, for giving us all this information today. And once again, as promised, we will leave you with this really cool video about beadworking in Kahnawake. On behalf of everyone at the task force, Nyauko Adanu, Onigiwahi.
January is a very dark, lonely month for people. It's a long month, and I just felt like I needed to do something to kind of keep people busy. I really didn't think that I would get so many people wanting to do the challenge. When I put it out there, I thought maybe I would get 10 to 20 people, maybe some of my regular customers, but it blew up and it just kept growing. And then the submissions started, and it kind of was overwhelming, but it gave me so much hope that people were doing what it was intended to do. If I could have helped at least one person, my job is done. So to see that that many people did it, it also showed that they needed it.
I was in between orders, so it came at the right time, and her design was beautiful, so it gave me something to do. I do a lot of orders and donations, so everything I make I don't keep, and a lot of the orders are color specific to the client based on ribbon shirts that we have to match, or other pieces of beadwork that I already have, so I can often choose my own colors. So when this came about, I saw it, and then I just thought I'm going to use all the colors that I don't normally use or I'm not comfortable with, like the super, super bright neon pinks, because I'm not a pink person. I don't know, I guess maybe it was partly COVID inspired, partly winter inspired, how it's just dull and dreary and lifeless pretty much this past year has been. So I just chose all the brightest colors I could find that I had, because I couldn't go out and buy any because everything was closed, and that's what I came up with.
We have 104 as of February 1st, but I am not gonna turn any submissions away. I want people to finish if they started, so as they finish, they can submit it and I'll add it to the album, because it's important that everything gets put where it should be. I didn't put like a cap on just beadwork because I know not everybody can beadwork. I just wanted people to figure out how to do the project in their own way. We had seasoned beaders put out beautiful pieces, out of the box pieces. If you look on the page, there's Tewatohnhi'saktha. She did a purse, a very old style purse, so it almost looks vintage. It was beautiful. But we also have people who were beginner beaders that did beautiful work. There was Joey Deere who did a beautiful piece that had the 5 Nations symbol at the bottom. Then we had stuff with birch bark, quills, we had paintings, embroidery, we had all kind of different mediums, and I thought that was really interesting. And to see everybody's take on it, everybody kind of did their own version of the piece. And that in itself was it just shows how creative people can be. I feel proud, not just for the fact that it was done, I feel proud for all the people who participated. I feel like we're a part of something that years down the road is going to be looked at as part of history. Somebody's going to come up on all these pieces of beadwork and when they go to research it, people beaded through a pandemic together. So that in itself, it's kind of history. So I'm proud of it. So they have the choice to take something that they haven't finished and finish it, because a lot of us beaders, sewers, crafters are well known for not finishing stuff and putting it aside. They have a choice of taking a picture of something they haven't finished and submitting it finished. And I'll have a special prize for the oldest unfinished piece, because I know that people have stuff sitting there for like 20 years. And the second part is another design that I drew out that's going to represent Kahnawake, and it'll be a little bit more masculine to try to get everybody involved.
As soon as I saw it, it spoke to me as a member of Onage, as a paddler. So of course I love the design, and I'm going to do one from my home because we're all paddlers in my home. And then when I do have free time, I'm going to make one to hang in the club and just put Onage instead of Kahnawake at the bottom.